I can guarantee you we've got at least a couple of hundred people in prison in this state alone for accidental fires. And we need to get them out.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 people who were wrongfully executed.
What we can say happened for sure is they had a lot of evidence that another man did it, and they didn't go look.
Christian done it.
By law standards, my case is very legally sufficient.
For this list, we're looking at people put to death as a result of shoddy police work, false testimonies, and/or flawed forensic evidence. They don't need to have been officially exonerated, provided the case against them was obviously flawed and shouldn't have resulted in a conviction. Which of these stories interests you the most? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Claude Jones. Forensic evidence isn't always all it's cracked up to be.
There were FBI whistleblowers in the 90s or in the 80s that started saying that their practices were unscientific, hadn't been backed by research.
A good example is microscopic hair analysis, the reliability of which we now know has been way overstated.
Your wife did it, right? Case closed.
Actually, there were 5 hairs. 3 were from a coconut.
But back in 1990, Claude Jones was convicted for armed robbery and murder based on a single strand of hair found at the crime scene, as well as testimony from erstwhile friend Timothy Jordan. After Governor George W. Bush denied requests for DNA analysis, Jones was killed by lethal injection. Timothy Jordan later admitted he had only testified for leniency in another case, and a 2010 DNA test showed that the hair actually belonged to the victim. Number 9. David Wayne Spence. Obsessed with finding the killer of 3 murdered teenagers in Waco, Texas, police officer Truman Simons came up with a theory. He believed that the owner of a local gas station had hired local roofer David Wayne Spence to kill his employee, a woman who happened to look like one of the victims. Simons' only evidence consisted of bite marks, the analysis of which has since been discredited, and testimonies given in exchange for prison privileges and lenient sentences. Nonetheless, Spence was convicted, and in 1997, he was killed by lethal injection. Even the police who led the initial investigation have suggested that Spence was innocent. Number 8. Ruben Cantu. Ruben Cantu was put to death in 1993 by lethal injection, executed for capital murder.
By law standards, my case is very legally sufficient to hold capital murder conviction because of the eyewitness.
Police claimed that Cantu had robbed and shot 2 San Antonio workmen. However, the survivor of the attack, Juan Moreno, only identified Cantu as the killer after pressure from police and has since recanted. Meanwhile, another man, David Garza, who claims to have witnessed Cantu leaving the scene, has since admitted that he himself committed the robbery, with an accomplice who was not Cantu committing the shootings. Cantu claimed that he was being framed for another incident, in which he shot and wounded an off-duty plainclothes police officer.
When it all comes out, I want the state of Texas to come out and make it public and apologize.
Number 7. Carlos DeLuna. In 1989, Carlos DeLuna was put to death by lethal injection for stabbing to death gas station attendant Wanda Lopez in Corpus Christi, Texas. But DeLuna claimed to have witnessed another Hispanic man, Carlos Hernandez, killing Lopez.
I just wish, these people would do something about it.
An investigation published in 2012 by the Columbia Human Rights Law Review revealed good grounds to believe him.
What we can say happened for sure is they had a lot of evidence that another man did it, and they didn't go look.
Although eyewitnesses Kevin Baker and George Aguirre identified DeLuna as the killer, Baker's description better fit Hernandez.
One of the police officers did mention to me, we found this guy hiding underneath the car without a shirt on, 2 blocks north of us.
If they had not said that, would you be less than 70% sure?
Yes.
A career criminal, Hernandez carried a lock blade knife just like the one used to kill Lopez, and, according to witnesses, boasted about murdering Lopez and letting DeLuna take the fall.
Because people can make a mistake, especially under stress, and especially in cases of cross-racial, cross-ethnic identifications.
Number 6. Chaska. What's in a name? A lot in cases like Chaska's. In 1862, starving Dakota bands rose up against white settlers after a series of broken promises. After defeating the bands, the army hanged 38 tribesmen in a single day, the largest mass execution in American history. Chaska, or Chaske or Wechankwashtadonpi, had abducted a white woman and her children during the conflict, but also defended them from harm, for which he received a pardon from none other than Abraham Lincoln. However, he may have been confused with another man, Chasky Don, and was hanged with the rest anyway. The woman he abducted suspected that this wasn't really accidental, and that Chaska was executed due to her positive testimony, and rumors they were lovers. Number 5. Joe Aridi. While in prison, 23-year-old Joe Aridi liked to play with a toy train given to him by the warden. With an IQ of 46, he was said to have the mental capacity of a young child. In fact, he smiled when he was brought to the gas chamber. Aridi was put to death in the Colorado State Penitentiary in 1939 for violating and murdering a teenager in Pueblo. However, evidence suggests that he wasn't in Pueblo at the time, and that his confession was coerced by police. The authorities also executed another man, Frank Aguilar, for the same crime. Aguilar said he'd never even seen Aridi before. Only in 2011 did Aridi receive a posthumous pardon. Number 4. Jesse Tefero. The execution of Jesse Tefero in 1990 is notorious for 2 reasons. 1, the flawed trial that resulted in his conviction, and 2, his botched execution. Tefero had been executed after Walter Rhodes claimed Tefero and his wife Sonny Jacobs killed 2 police officers. However, on more than one occasion, Rhodes later admitted he had shot them himself, something gunpowder evidence from the investigation backed up. Jacobs' sentence was commuted to life, but Tefero was put to death in an electric chair nicknamed Old Sparky. Because the execution team used the wrong kind of sponge, he caught fire, and it took 3 tries and 7 minutes for Tefero to die. Number 3. Timothy Evans. In 1950, Timothy Evans was hanged for the murder of his wife and 1-year-old daughter. Evans had gone to the police claiming he killed his wife during a botched medical procedure at their home in Notting Hill, London.
I want to give myself up. I've disposed of my wife.
But he later admitted that he and his wife had asked downstairs neighbor John Christie to perform it, since abortions were illegal.
I'm ever so nervous, Mr. Christie.
There's no need to be.
Christie told Evans his wife's death had been accidental, but in a new twist, police found both wife and daughter strangled. During the trial, Evans claimed Christie must have killed them, but to no avail. It later came out that Christie was a serial killer, and police had missed obvious evidence. Number 2. George Stinney. In 1944, an all-white jury took just 10 minutes to convict 14-year-old African-American George Stinney of the murder of 2 white girls in Alcaloo, South Carolina. Police claimed Stinney had confessed, but there was no signed confession, and the prosecution presented 2 versions of the confession that were markedly different. The boy was rushed to execution just 83 days after his arrest. In 2014, a circuit court judge vacated Stinney's conviction, stating that he had not received a fair trial and that his execution had constituted cruel and unusual punishment. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Cameron Todd Willingham. Even seconds before death, Texas man Cameron Todd Willingham maintained his innocence. He was convicted in 1992 of murdering his own children in a house fire, and in 2004, he was put to death by lethal injection. But the case against him was based on suspect testimonies and flawed science.
And the results were positive for a combustible liquid accelerant-kerosene. Well, that's quite understandable because the porch also had a barbecue on it.
Psychologist Tim Gregory argued that Willingham's Led Zeppelin poster showed an interest in, quote, satanic activities. In exchange for a reduced sentence, jailhouse informant Johnny Webb claimed Willingham had confessed.
Willingham admitted to him that he spread the accelerant on the floor in the children's room in sort of a pentagram or a star-shaped pattern.
Webb later recanted, and numerous fire experts have agreed there was no evidence of arson.
I can guarantee you we've got at least a couple of hundred people in prison in this state alone for accidental fires, and we need to get them out.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.